Next is deferred annuity. And basically the concept with the deferred annuity is that what we have is basically deferred annuity is when we have the first payment is deferred to a later date. So the first payment is made at a later time. So what that means is that now we have two periods. The first period, there's no payment. So PMT equals to 0 in the first period. And then in the second period, we have PMT equals to certain numbers. So example 2, we have a major property developer is concerned about the lack of sales due to local economic conditions. To ensure that his condo are occupied, he offered a lease to purchase program in which if people signs the lease by the end of March, they will not have to start making payment until March of the following year. The purchase price of the condo is $192,000. Payment of $1,190 will be required at the beginning of each month over a 25 years amortization period. If interest is 3.35% compounded semi-annually during the first year, what is the semi-annually compounded interest rate? So from a timeline perspective, what you need to know is that we have two time period. This is deferred annuity, where in the first period, there's no payments, PMT equals to 0. So in the first period, which is 1 year. And then in the second period, we have 25 years. So total period from time 0 to 20 times T26, right? So 26 years in total. First year, no payments. Next 25 years, we have the PMT, okay? So, and what we're solving for in this question is we're solving for the IY in the second period. This is what we're solving for, okay? So in order for us to find the IY in the second period, what we need to do is we need to first find the future value in the first period, and we're going to use that future value in the first period, and that becomes the present value in the next period. So that's the connection point from a timeline perspective. Okay, so the connection point between the first period and the second period is that your present value of the next 25 years is equal to the future value of the first period. Okay, so that's your connection point. Okay, and what you need to know is that there are no payment in the first period. In the next 25 year, we have payment of $1,190. And in the question, how we know this is BGN? How we know that this is BGN is because the first payment is required, the payments are required at the beginning of each month. So that's how we know this is BGN. So you need to look for the keyword beginning of each month. So what you need to know is that because the payments are from the beginning of the period, so our N equals to 0, that's the first payment, and then it goes all the way to N equals to 299. That's the last payment. So once we understand the timeline, then now we can start filling in the boxes. So we know that there are two periods, so we have two line of boxes. So the first line of box is your first year, and then the second line of box is your next 25 years. Okay, so the first number that we see in the equation is that we have, in the question is that we have present value of 192, so that's our present value, $192,000, that's the present value. Next number that we see is that we have the 1190 payments. So that payment is not required until the next 25 years. So that PMT of 1190 will be your PMT for the second period. And then the PMT is negative because we're paying down your mortgage. And then we know that the first period, there are no payments. So that means the first period PMT equals to 0. And we know that the interest rate during the first year is 3.35%, compounded semi-annually. So CY is 2, IY is 3.35 during the first year. And when there are no PMT, what we learn in compound interest right at the beginning is that when there are no PMT, N equals to T times CY. So therefore, T times CY gives you the 2. 1 times 2 equals to 2. And then when there are no PMT, when PMT equals to 0, CY equals to PY. So therefore, PY equals to 2. So our first line of boxes are filled. Then we compute for future value, and we're going to get 198,485. So I won't show you that. You should know how to do that. That should be straightforward. So what you need to know is that when there are no payments, when PMT equals to 0, then there are no BGN, right? So BGN is only for when we have payments. Because with no payments, then the BGN doesn't really do anything. So therefore, there's no BGN in the first part. So that's why I didn't put BGN in the first part. But in the second part, in the next 25 years, we need to put the BGN because we know that in the next 25 years, our first payment is at the beginning of each month. So that's why we know that BGN is in the second line of next 25 years. And then the beginning of each month, so PY is 12. So now PY is no longer 2, PY is now 12 because we're making monthly payments. And when we know that we have monthly payments, when we know that we have PMT, then N equals to T times PY. So T is 25 years, PY is 12, so T times PY, so 25 times 12 will give you 300. So that's how we get the 300 for the period. And what we know is that for the future value from the previous year, that future value becomes the present value for the next 25 years. So that's the connection point. So we carry that number over. So we carry the future value of the first year, and that becomes the present value for the next 25 years. And the reason why our payment again is negative is because we're paying down this mortgage. This is how much money we borrow from the bank. So 198,485, that's how much we borrow from the bank. This is the mortgage amount, and we're making payment to pay it down. So therefore, our PMT is negative. We're reducing the balance of the mortgage. And future value is 0 because at the end of the mortgage, we don't owe any more money. So our future value equals to 0. So once we have the second box filled out, then we just have to set it to BGN, and then we type the number same as before, and you're going to get the IY equals to 5.358. So that's why when we draw the timeline, we know that we have 300 payments, and because the payment starts at the first period, beginning of the first period, so that's why we're starting from N equals 0 all the way to 299. So 300 payments, 300 periods of payments. So this is when we have BGN. If we don't have BGN, then the payment will start from period 1 all the way to 300. So that's the difference between BGN and N mode. If we don't have BGN, if there's no BGN, then our payment will start from period 1 all the way to 300. But we have BGN in this question here, so therefore our payment starts from N, period N equals to 0, all the way to N equals to 299.